All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to this Code Ninja Security Advisory Explainer. In the incredibly fast-moving landscape of zero-day vulnerabilities, visibility is literally everything. As a white hat security researcher, my absolute priority when participating in coordinated vulnerability disclosure is to provide you, our community, with clear, strictly actionable intelligence so you can protect your infrastructure immediately. Today, we are analyzing a critical threat to the Apple ecosystem. And this explainer, well, it's designed to give you the exact mitigation intelligence you need right now to force a vendor patch and secure your perimeter long before threat actors can actually scale their attacks.
So let's dive into exactly what we're looking at. The zero-day threat we're actively tracking is officially designated as CVE 2026-43653. And what this is a severe denial-of-service vulnerability affecting Apple devices. But here is the critical reality you need to understand. An unauthenticated local network attacker can exploit an improper memory handling flaw to trigger this whole denial-of-service condition. Basically, core operating system processes are failing to properly validate the size and structure of inbound packets. And the scary part? A threat actor doesn't need to steal your passwords. They don't need you to click a sketchy link or download a payload. Zero user interaction is required to completely destabilize your network-facing components.
To really grasp the urgency of this advisory, let's walk through the incredibly rapid sequence of events in this vulnerability's lifecycle. On May 11th, the initial CVE record was published to the National Vulnerability Database using data received straight from Apple. Literally the next day, May 12th, CISA ADP updated the record and assigned it a CVSS score. Just one day after that, May 13th, NIST completed its initial technical analysis. And then on May 18th, SentinelOne dropped a comprehensive threat report detailing the exact mechanics of the exploit. I mean, the timeline from discovery to detailed threat modeling was blindingly fast. Notice how rapidly researchers and, threat actors alike unpack these disclosures. That just means our defensive response has got to be equally swift.
Okay, before we move into the technical deep dive, I actually need to pause for a quick tactical pivot. Let's do a comms check. As defenders, our ability to respond to zero-day threats is really only as good as our communication lines, right? When a critical vulnerability drops, hesitation is exactly the gap attackers rely on. So, we need to ensure you are totally primed to receive critical security protocols in real time, without any delay. To maintain a secure, direct communication link for all future zero-day threats, I'm strongly instructing you to subscribe to @cybertech79 and enable those notifications right now. Seriously, consider this a security necessity for real-time intelligence gathering. And while you're at it, please drop a like on this explainer. Consider that like your formal ACK. Your official acknowledgement of receipt for this vital security intel. All right, comms check complete. Let's transition into our technical deep dive. Section 1. The blast radius. Analyzing the technical threat. Let's take a look at the exact parameters of this vulnerability's impact.
So, the severity of this threat is defined by a CVSS version 3.1 base score of 6.2. Now, I know what you're thinking. A 6.2 formally classifies this as just a medium severity threat, but do not let that label lull you into a false sense of security for even a second. The availability impact here is incredibly high. In an enterprise environment, continuous availability is just as critical as confidentiality. And because this exploit requires literally zero privileges and zero user interaction to execute, it's a highly disruptive threat to any operational environment relying on Apple hardware. Think about it. If your devices freeze, your operations halt. Now, what's really fascinating here is the root cause of the flaw itself. Notice the CWE 400 designation. That stands for Uncontrolled Resource Consumption. What this actually means in practice is that the vulnerability stems from improper memory handling within a network-facing component. Essentially, the original code path just mismanages buffers, allocations, or object lifetimes whenever it parses local network input. As a result, an attacker can supply crafted network traffic that just completely exhausts the affected device's memory or CPU resources until the whole system becomes totally unresponsive. It basically forces the hardware to choke on its own processes. So how is this actually exploited out in the wild? Well, the exploitation vector relies on a local network attack. Because the vector is local rather than remote over the broad internet, an adjacent attacker has to share a broadcast domain with the victim. Think about your shared corporate Wi-Fi networks, unsegmented guest networks, maybe hotel lobbies, or even your local coffee shop. If you are on the exact same local network segment, that attacker can forcefully destabilize your device just by sending specially crafted packets that the vulnerable code path totally fails to process safely.
Let's quickly compare the scope of the affected ecosystems here. On the vulnerable side, we have a massive swath of Apple platforms. We're talking iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and tvOS. They are all explicitly at risk. It's a huge footprint. Conversely, it's just as vital in threat intelligence to know what is not vulnerable, so you can prioritize your patching. Red Hat Product Security actually conducted a thorough assessment and officially determined that this vulnerability does not affect any currently supported Red Hat products. So your Linux infrastructure, totally safe from this specific CVE. But your Apple endpoints are currently sitting squarely in the crosshairs.
Okay, so we've analyzed the blast radius. Now we need to shift our focus from analysis to action. Section 2, the patch protocol, critical mitigation strategies. It's time to outline the most critical steps to protect your perimeter.
The absolute most crucial point here is getting your devices updated to the correct target OS release versions. Apple has thankfully addressed the improper memory handling issue in specific, targeted updates. If you are running iOS or iPadOS prior to 18.7.9 or prior to version 26.5, you are vulnerable. Full stop. You absolutely must update to iOS or iPadOS 18.7.9 or version 26.5. Additionally, for the Mac users out there, you need to update to macOS Sonoma 14.8.7 or Tahoe 26.5. And if you've got Apple TVs in your environment, push tvOS to version 26.5 immediately.
Let's look at how this builds into a comprehensive defense plan. Here is your strict 3-step protocol. Step 1. Force the fix. Update the OS immediately across your entire fleet, and make sure you prioritize remote devices that regularly connect to untrusted or public Wi-Fi. Step 2. Enforce strict network segmentation. You want to implement temporary workarounds by ensuring Apple endpoints absolutely do not share broadcast domains with unmanaged or bring-your-own-device hosts. Restrict your sensitive devices to trusted, isolated networks only. And finally, Step 3. Actively monitor your endpoints for network daemon crashes.
Now, to execute that third step effectively, you've got to know exactly what you're looking for. Your indicators of compromise, or IOCs, are going to be unexpected crashes, spontaneous restarts, or just weird hangs of network-related services on those Apple devices. For example, you might see a sudden loss of network responsiveness on a corporate iPad, while other hosts on the exact same LAN are perfectly fine. Enterprise teams really need to centralize those macOS unified logs and iOS MDM feeds to track repeat kernel or daemon crashes. Furthermore, you should enable wireless intrusion detection on your enterprise Wi-Fi to flag any anomalous Layer 2 or Layer 3 broadcast traffic that's targeting your Apple endpoints. Because honestly, these local floods, they're very often the precursor to a targeted denial of service.
Before we wrap up today, I want to briefly ground us in the core objective of this disclosure. As a white hat security researcher, my fundamental operational code is community protection. Users need actionable intelligence to protect their systems and secure the perimeter. By practicing coordinated vulnerability disclosure, we literally strip the advantage away from the attackers. We pull these vulnerabilities right out of the shadows and empower defenders like you to force fixes before mass, indiscriminate exploitation can even occur.
I want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative question that really summarizes the core risk of CVE 2026-43653. If this exploit requires an attacker to be on your local network, is your local network truly as segmented as you think it is? Challenge your internal network trust model today. Do not just blindly assume your guest Wi-Fi is properly isolated from your corporate assets. You have to actively verify it. Apply those patches, aggressively segment your networks, and keep a close eye on your logs. Look at your own perimeter and ask yourself again, is it truly isolated? That concludes this Code Ninja Security Advisory. Stay secure.